Hey, are you keeping track? Just under 2 months to go to the NHL trade deadline. For all the latest chatter involving the Oilers and the Habs, here's our insider, Pierre LeBrun. Pierre, with the deadline coming up, we know teams are bringing their scouting staffs together to come up with their game plans. What are you hearing that's coming out of Edmonton right now?
Right, so that's exactly what happened there this week. Gino, the Oilers front office held pro scouting meetings. They wanted to get ahead of the trade deadline cycle because it's a bit of a different year with the Four Nations and sort of, the NHL season stopping to a halt for so many days. So the Oilers got ahead of things. And what they identify, my understanding is by the end of those pro scouting meetings is obviously one of the priorities will be to upgrade the blue line. Now, let's call it for what it is. The Oilers' blue line has actually been better than advertised. There was a lot of people that were concerned in that market after the offseason losses and the changes. But the reality is, Edmonton entered Thursday night 8th in the league in goals against. And they've been pretty solid defensively. But there's also a recognition within the Oilers front office that Edmonton, knock on wood, has been pretty healthy on the back end as well, largely speaking. And I think there's probably a recognition that there's a lack of depth there if they do start to run into injuries as the season goes on. So there was chatter in those meetings this week that they put together a list of names in terms of the D market, and the idea is to upgrade the blue line if possible. Now that can come in a lot of different ways, Gino. Obviously in the perfect world, you add a top 4D. That would be the optimum. But it depends on the market, the asking price, who's available. At the very least, they would add a depth piece. It's early in the process. GM Stan Bowman, I'm told, has just really started to make calls around the league now to gauge the market. Part of the difficulty is that the entire Eastern Conference is still in a playoff race, so there aren't that many announced sellers in the East. But the other thing is that the Oilers front office, from what I understand, discussed this fact. They're not going out and looking at the D market looking for a very specific, type of player. In other words, could they trade for example, a shutdown, penalty killing, right-handed D like a David Savard? For sure, in my mind, David Savard is on that Oilers list. Sure, that could happen. But the Oilers are just as comfortable trading for a left-handed D who's a puck mover. In other words, they left those meetings this week saying, we can be flexible here because the Oilers themselves as a blue line group have been very flexible this year. Brett Kulak has played both sides. Paul Coffey has deployed his deep pairings in different ways in game, making adjustments. So the Oilers are casting a wide net as they start to make their calls in a D market. They can go left, they could go right, they go top four, they go depth. They're looking at everything.
Yeah, but you got to be flexible because you don't know who's going to become available and at what price. You mentioned the Eastern Conference. How about the Habs? General Manager Kent Hughes held the State of the Union yesterday. I like the way he handled it. He said the Habs are thrilled to be in the playoff hunt right now, but he's still looking to stay the course overall. They got a big decision to make about Jake Evans. He's a pending unrestricted free agent. He's drawing a lot of attention from teams who want to add up the middle. What are you hearing on that front, Pierre?
Yeah, certainly it was a guarded message from Kent Hughes at his State of the Union. I think that was the way to go. A lot of people excited in that market, as they should be, but also 22 games to be played before March 7th trade deadline. Jake Evans is the big name among the pending UFAs, although Yoel Armia has been terrific this year too. But Evans is playing the best hockey in his career, and he's also 28 years old, and this is his moment, contract-wise, right? He's at the peak of his career. He's on pace for a 20-goal season. Now, I should point out, he's also shooting 28%, which is easily a career high. His career average is 10%. Yes. So there's a lot of different things you can look at. But the bottom line is Jake Evans is healthy, and he's playing great. So the Habs have informed Jake Evans that they will try to sign him. They are interested in keeping him around beyond this season. But I also think part of that message is they can't afford for Jake Evans to get his home run deal in Montreal. That there's going to have to be some give and take for Jake Evans to remain a Montreal Canadian past this season. They've only had very preliminary discussions. They haven't really got into numbers yet, but that message from the Habs to Evans has certainly been sent as far as how they value him and want to keep him around. If they can't sign him, and I think term could be a hurdle in this negotiation once it gets going for real, Gino. I don't know that the Habs can view themselves going 5-6 years given all the other guys they have coming in the system. And again, no one's going to begrudge Jake Evans if this is his career moment and wants to go to market July 1st. How can you? That's every player's right. Let's see where it goes. But the tough part will be this. Because Jake Evans only makes $1.7 million, I know there are a lot of cup contenders that have circled his name and are waiting to see how Montreal plays that situation out. For example, the Devils, I'm told, are among the teams that have already kicked tires on Jake Evans. The Devils looking for a center. So it's going to be a tough decision for the Habs. I think they know how far they're willing to go on an extension for him. And regardless, I think, of where they are in the standings, if there's an incredible offer for him and they can't sign him, I think they have to think of trading him. So this is going to play out here over the next 8 weeks.
He could be a solid depth piece. That's a little of what the guys are working on right now. Pierre, CJ, and Dregs will have the full version of Insider Trading that's coming up later on SportsCenter.